Welcome to our 12 on 12 digital original, The War on Alzheimer's. I'm Mike Montecalvo. We're going to introduce you to some amazing and courageous people who are telling their stories in hopes of making a difference. Alzheimer's is the 6th leading cause of death in this country, and more than 5 million Americans are living with the memory-robbing disease, and there is no cure. The disease has touched my family. My mother lived with Alzheimer's for 8 years before passing away in 2007. And now my father deals with dementia every day. But Dr. Stephen Salloway at Butler Hospital in Providence says there is hope.
Well, I tell you right now, we're on the, with all the trouble going on in the world, we're really on the verge of breakthroughs in Alzheimer's. So we've come a long way.
While the disease mainly affects people over 65, thousands in their 40s and 50s can develop what's called early onset. And that has Stephen Blaze concerned, who has lost loved ones under the age of 65.
It's unfortunately always at the forefront of my thoughts. Whenever something happens, is this Alzheimer's starting off in me?
The collateral damage of Alzheimer's is devastating for family members who live every day providing care for someone who might not know them. Roger Messier was a caregiver for his wife who passed away this spring.
I miss having her in my bed. I miss having her sitting in the living room with me, but I miss holding her hand.
And those living with Alzheimer's have a simple message for everyone.
I think I'd say to people who don't really have somebody with Alzheimer's in their family to just be kind. Just don't judge. Don't make fun of people that are different in that way.
We begin with Mary Ellen Langworthy's story. An author, she knows the pain and frustration of living with Alzheimer's. However, she's not ready to give up, and she's facing the disease head on with her family by her side.
Yeah, I was still surprised when he said Alzheimer's. I said, I don't believe it.
Mary Ellen Langworthy knows a pain no one wants to feel.
Well, I think at first I felt a lot of shame, and I didn't want to talk about it. I don't know, I felt like something was really wrong that I did, or I don't even know what the logical part of that is, but I felt a lot of shame.
First diagnosed in 2017, Mary Ellen now lives each day in fear of losing who she is deep down inside. It's frustrating, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Does it wear on you when you think that?
Yes, and I think what it does each time that happens is sort of touch the place in me that's horrified and sort of terrified. And that's not real pleasant.
What are you terrified about?
Well, I'm terrified of losing my autonomy and my identity and becoming somebody that even I don't know who I am,
When you look in the mirror, though, you still see you.
Oh, yes, and I still feel very much like I'm myself now.
Mary Ellen tells me the changes in her health are slow. While she tries to keep busy, she's more forgetful, tired, and needs at least 2 naps a day, knowing her body and mind need the rest. What is something that you really miss that you can't do anymore?
Yeah, I miss being really quick-witted and funny. Sometimes I can pull it off, but not as much as I used to be able to.
She also longs to write again. A published author, Mary Ellen has written 2 young adult books, All the Way Home and Soul Sister. She says the words just aren't there anymore, and she's not clear why, although she's come to realize her short-term memory is severely compromised. Wife Elda Dauber, also an author, says it's tragic to watch. What's the most difficult thing for you?
Seeing someone I love deeply, who is a courageous woman in her own right, and a strong woman, and a competent woman as a school psychologist and as an author, seeing her not be able to pull out those pieces of herself that she was so proud of, and to be so afraid of the future, and to be afraid of not being the caretaker herself of her kids and our grandkids, because she's one of those people, and you're one of those people who has always held up more than half the sky for everybody. And that this would happen, to take away that piece that she cherishes so much is just really hard.
Family is a big part of her life. Mary Ellen is trying to come to grips with the fact that someday she won't recognize them. Not remembering your family and friends, is that a big part of like what could happen down the road?
Yeah. I can't imagine that. I mean, I can, of course, but I don't. That's the part I think that feels the most horrible to me.
Do you think about that time when it comes and she might not remember you anymore?
It terrifies me.
Mary Ellen also knows the pain and suffering of forgetting and losing your dignity. She watched her grandmother suffer through Alzheimer's and fears her last days will be the same.
She would be eating and forget that she could find her mouth, or she didn't recognize anybody. So, I don't look forward to being that way.
She says telling her story will help others realize the need to raise money, awareness, and support for caregivers, and a reminder not to judge. Despite memory loss, people living with Alzheimer's have feelings too.
Because I want people to know. Because I did feel shame before when I was first diagnosed. And I thought, this is crazy that you'd feel shame for having a disease. And so I feel like the more I can talk about it and the more people get used to it, the better it is.
Do you feel that people judge you?
I think if they don't know me, if I say something, I have Alzheimer's, I can see their eyes go, oh.
While she sometimes gets angry at herself or just scared, she knows the outcome and has a message for people who haven't traveled down the road that never seems to end.
I think I'd say to people who don't really have somebody with Alzheimer's in their family to just be kind. Just don't judge. Don't make fun of people that, are different in that way.
Mary Ellen is a study participant in a clinical trial for a drug which seeks to break down and remove amyloid protein buildup in her brain. While she's just one of 24,000 Rhode Islanders living with Alzheimer's, more than 54,000 family and friends are providing care, like Elda and Roger Messier. We first met Roger on an honor flight trip to Washington, where veterans are taken to our nation's capital to celebrate the memorials dedicated to their service. Roger's job in Korea was to put dog tags in the mouths of soldiers who had died. He had no idea his most challenging time of life would come 6 decades later, when he would have to care for his wife Lorraine, who suffered from Alzheimer's disease and eventually passed away from the coronavirus. It's a part of Roger's life that weighs heavily on his heart.
One of the things that keeps me going is all the wonderful memories that we have. God was good to us.
Pictures bringing back special moments and the best of times of Lorraine and Roger Messier's life together. Was it love at first sight?
It was absolutely.
Lorraine Lanou and Roger Messier first met walking to high school back in the 1950s. Lorraine, Notre Dame, Roger, Sacred Heart Academy in Central Falls.
I used to walk with her cousin, and I said to her cousin one day, I think she's cute. I like her. He says, it's my cousin. No, you don't like her. And I said, yes, I do. I'm going to marry her someday. And we did.
For 60 years, Lorraine and Roger celebrated life. 5 kids, 9 grandchildren, 2 great-great-grandkids, and so many friends. They enjoyed family gatherings, traveling, or just spending time together. But 8 years ago, one word rocked their world: Alzheimer's. Is that like a kick to the gut?
Oh my God, it was heartbreaking. I mean, I didn't know that much about Alzheimer's at the time, but when they said, she has the beginning of Alzheimer's, we need to do this, we need to do that.
Roger began researching Alzheimer's disease in order to care for Lorraine. He discovered services for Lorraine and himself, different medications and therapies. Roger was frightened.
I was scared in the sense that I was losing, not a person, I was losing someone that I could rely on and trust and confide in. I knew that wasn't going to work anymore. I still had the body, but I didn't have the mind. and that's heartbreaking.
Lorraine spent her adult years as a registered nurse, caring for those who could not care for themselves. Now she needed help 24/7, and it was extremely stressful.
She had more guts and more energy. There were some times where I got a little upset with what was going on, and I yelled at her a few times out of desperation, and she would leave the room and go into another room. And then I realized what a stupid thing I did. So I went in the room to see her, and she said, "Hi, how are you? How's everything?" And I said, "Everything's good." I felt so bad, but she didn't realize I was angry with her.
While Alzheimer's has a devastating impact on those with a disease like Lorraine, it's also a heavy burden on their caregivers, people they love, like Roger.
You're dying inside yourself, you know, as I said, because you're missing that link that holds everything together. That link is being broken, unfortunately.
Donna McGowan is executive director of the Alzheimer's Association of Rhode Island.
Because as their memory slips, as long as they remain in their state, we keep them happy and comfortable, they're fine. But it's everybody around that loved one that's watching the decline, and the fact that you end up grieving a loss that hasn't physically occurred. There's no good disease, but this disease has that particular element that no other disease has. And that's really tough to navigate. And it's tough, you know, to be asked for breakfast 8 times within the first hour when you've already given them breakfast.
The Alzheimer's Association says in 2019, more than 16 million family members and friends provided almost 19 billion hours of unpaid care to people with Alzheimer's and other dementias at an economic value of $244 billion. Nearly 1/4 of caregivers are what's called the sandwich generation, caregivers caring for both someone with a disease and a child or grandchild. Caregivers are real heroes.
Yes, they are. They are certainly our heroes, but not just our Alzheimer's caregivers, all caregivers are heroes. It becomes a 24/7 occupation. In addition to managing the house, managing your children, your grandchildren, managing a business or your work. Unbelievable, the amount of stress and pressure that adds to your normal circle of life throughout the years. Caregivers are definitely heroes.
Even more tragic, Lorraine fell and broke her hip. In the hospital, doctors discovered Lorraine had contracted the coronavirus. She fought it for 3 months until her passing in May. Roger not being there for her was killing him.
You know, and the sad part, of course, was that I wasn't able to be there to hold her hand again. But I hadn't seen her in almost 3 months.
Although a short time has passed, to Roger and his children, it seems like a lifetime. You believe that someday you'll hold your wife's hand again?
I do. I really do, and I can't wait. But that's one of the things I miss most. I miss having her in my bed. I miss having her sitting in the living room with me, but I miss holding her hand.
Roger says one of the things that keeps him going is the wonderful memories they shared together, knowing it wasn't going to be forever.
Make retirement what you can make of it, because it's the best years of your life. And you have no idea when God's going to call you. So make the best of it.
The Alzheimer's Association of Rhode Island has many support groups for caregivers. If you need more information, you can see it right here on our website. One of the trials taking place at Butler Hospital in Providence deals with exercise and nutrition. It's called the Pointer Study, and Stephen Blaze formed the local chapter of the November Project, where many people are here on the pedestrian bridge every Wednesday morning exercising to keep their mind sharp. Stephen knows all too well about Alzheimer's. He's lost his grandmother, mother, aunt, and uncle, and is afraid someday he might get Alzheimer's too.
It's an everyday grief because they're still there, but they're also not there.
It's personal for Stephen Blaze. He lost his mom, Aunt Janice, Uncle Bill, plus has an aunt living with Alzheimer's and another uncle about to get tested. Even more eye-opening, all of them diagnosed under 65.
My family has a variant on the PSN1 gene, and what it does is it gives us all a 50-50 chance of having early onset Alzheimer's.
Stephen has undergone tests to see if he carries the gene, but they've come back inconclusive. However, Blaze, who's 41, knows the possibility is there that one day he too will hear those words, you have Alzheimer's.
Not knowing has been a struggle, and whenever I forget something, the question is always, is this Alzheimer's or did I not get enough sleep? Is this Alzheimer's or am I just a little stressed and I can't remember something?
The pain so down inside, it hurts.
It's unfortunately always at the forefront of my thoughts. Whenever something happens, is this Alzheimer's starting off in me?
That's a tough way to live.
It really is. It led me a few years ago to finally get around to getting the genetic testing done to find out if I had the predisposition for Alzheimer's. Up until that point, I had lived every single day of my life expecting that I was going to be diagnosed as positive. What I found is that the test results were inconclusive, and it was the most freeing moment of my entire life because for the first time, it wasn't a concrete thought in my mind that I had Alzheimer's. It was the opportunity to live my life the same way everyone else is. Maybe this will happen, maybe it won't, but it was no longer a huge roadblock in my trying to live.
Building friendships and forming a bond with someone was something Stephen wanted to avoid.
It was so difficult to have a concrete, meaningful relationship because I didn't want to put a partner into a position where in a few years maybe have to deal with me starting to lose my memory and feel like she was stuck in that spot. For the longest time, I kept everybody at an arm's reach. Not only romantic relationships, but friendship-wise as well. In a squat.
The loss has motivated Blaze to stay healthy to prevent becoming another Alzheimer's stat. That's why he's taking part in the Pointer trial at Butler Hospital in Providence. It's a lifestyle study that encompasses vigorous exercise, a healthy diet, and more.
Pointer study was a successful study that they had in Europe that they've brought over to America and hoping to duplicate the results. Getting people active, people who have never been active, getting them outside, walking, running, riding a bicycle to increase the possibility of their defeating Alzheimer's is absolutely something that I love. Get going! You're just doing burpees!
One way to stay fit is this, a good workout on the Providence Pedestrian Bridge, 6:30 in the morning. Stephen is the leader of the local November Project, an exercise group founded in Boston but has chapters around the country.
I like the way you work it!
Pre-COVID, more than 150 people would run up and down the State House steps and exercise to stay fit. Now with a smaller group, they meet here every Wednesday morning before the sun comes up in the capital city. Stephen says it's liberating.
All coming together for an hour a week to exercise, and they've all become a very solid community. So they're really hitting two aspects of that Pointer study, building that community and getting that exercise together.
Now Blaze says he's in a good place and doesn't think he'll get retested.
Not knowing is better than knowing at this point in my life. It's allowed me to further my relationships. It's allowed me to meet a wonderful young lady and really allow myself to open up to my friends, family, loved ones. I think knowing may put a hindrance on that. They say that it's better to live life free and open and not worry about the stresses of onset of Alzheimer's than live life every day feeling like you're going to have it.
It's been said it's not how many years we live, but what we do with the years we have.
I live my life hoping that I can make her proud. She was such a beautiful woman that no matter what I did, she would be proud. I like to think that she's smiling down on me, pleased with what we're doing here.
And I'm sure she is. Early warning signs for dementia and Alzheimer's if you have a loved one going through this. Number one is short-term memory loss. 2, mood swings. 3, language trouble. 4, your loved one constantly repeating things. 5, difficulty completing normal tasks. Also to look out for is a loss of focus, comprehension, and confusion. Also a loss of direction and then misplacing things and losing the ability to retrace your steps. Struggling to adapt to change and apathy. One of the leading researchers in the country studying the human brain is Dr. Stephen Soloway, who says despite the grim diagnosis of Alzheimer's, we could be realizing a cure in our lifetime. It's an all-out assault.
We have to attack on all fronts. This is a multi-pronged war against Alzheimer's.
Going to battle won't be easy. Dr. Stephen Soloway is director of Butler Hospital's Memory and Aging Program. He is recognized as a leading expert in aging, Alzheimer's disease, and memory disorders. He's currently testing new treatments for people dealing with those life-threatening challenges. Dr. Soloway tells me he's hopeful now more than ever.
Well, I tell you right now, we're on the, with all the trouble going on in the world, we're really on the verge of breakthroughs in Alzheimer's. So we've come a long way.
Salloway says the biggest advancement has been the diagnosis.
So we know part of the pathology, what changes in the brain, and now we have PET scans that can see those changes safely years before memory loss, so we can tell who's at risk, who's on the way to Alzheimer's, and try to stop that. And we have prevention trials. So I think the main takeaway message for your viewers is prevention.
According to the Alzheimer's Association, 5 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's. 200,000 who are in their 40s and 50s have what's known as early onset. But as the number of older Americans grows rapidly, so too will the number of new and existing cases. Without a cure by 2050, the number of people 65 and older with Alzheimer's could surpass 14 million. The cost to care for them, $1 trillion. Dr. Salloway says a cure won't be found without medication.
One of the medicines we've been testing called aducanumab, it's made by a company up in Boston, up in Cambridge, Biogen, showed promising results and is now under review at the FDA. So that could be the first treatment that actually removes plaques from the brain to slow down the memory loss in people with early stages of Alzheimer's.
A groundbreaking trial is the AHEAD study involving the first infusion of the investigative drug banned 2401. Dave Kalber received the first IV infusions of the new prevention trial in September at Butler.
People have an amyloid PET scan and find out whether or not they're building up plaques, and we're treating people with early buildup called intermediate level of buildup. This is something new for this trial. We haven't done this before. And also people with higher levels. So we're really catching in the earliest stage that we can with a medicine that actually hopefully stops or slows down the process.
A potential breakthrough, blood tests.
We have new blood tests that look very reliable, that they're not quite ready. They're in research use now, but I anticipate in the next couple of years they'll come into clinical practice, so a doctor will be able to order blood tests and see whether or not you're building up plaques in the brain just by looking at changes in the blood. It's going to be much more economical and easy to do.
While brain changes related to Alzheimer's can begin 20 years before a person exhibits symptoms, discovering treatment that targets these changes early means doctors may be able to someday prevent memory loss, leading to our first Alzheimer's survivor.
It's going to be like other major diseases. We diagnose it early, we have treatments that make a difference, we give lifestyle recommendations that make a difference in brain health, and it's going to be much more manageable.
Dr. Salloway tells me more money for research and a constant conversation about Alzheimer's are two ways to get closer to a cure. We've put Dr. Salloway's entire interview on our website right here. Plus, we have a lot of links for you just in case you're looking for answers and you need some help, especially if you're a caregiver. Hopefully one day we'll get closer to a world without Alzheimer's. For our producer Jen Quinn, our chief videographer John Villela, I'm Mike Montecalvo. Thank you very much for watching.